I got a phone call and I don't know what I was saying, and it doesn't really matter. I don't care. But yeah, the gesture of wearing the heart rate monitor helps. And yeah, it feels like parallel realities of fate and destiny. And realizing I have to create my destiny, and sometimes feeling these forces of fate, of the gravity, of the consensus, and family conditioning. And the fault, in a way, is feeling like people see the world like I do. And I guess we all feel that. And being in this creative state, feeling like, oh, other people would want to create this too, of course. And that's not necessarily true, but doesn't mean that I can't keep on creating. So finding ways that I can create, because I'm in this room. And that's the thing. Now it's so cold. It's not like I can go outside and talk to myself as much, and I won't be able to. So I feel like not having space, not having quiet, not having all these things that I feel my nervous system basically needs, I need to adapt and still be able to be creative, because if I'm not in that creative energy, I'm moving with the programs of the self and the ego. And the more I do that, and the creative energy is there a bit, it's going to create more of that. It's going to see all the ways that there are barriers to being creative and create more ego that is a reaction to not having the space to be creative. So this is a lesson really in a lot of what can accumulate in so-called bipolar and lead to the manifestation of supposed personal moods, which I feel are more that creative energy bumping up against societal structures, which is based on the self. And when that happens, we give voice to more self because there's more energy there to create. So it's going to create more self in the interactions with other selves, because this energy is powerful. So it will want to overpower other selves, because that's the way the creative energy is being channeled. That's the way all energy is being channeled, into the me, into the self, into opinions, into conflict. So it's really easy for, when one's epigesturetic matrix, one's situation is really structured with a lot of that around, it's easy for one to give voice to that when that is what one is interacting with. It's challenging to not. So, like I said yesterday, I had this feeling of getting out of this epigesturetic matrix. And I could pack up my car and go and see what happens. But that would seem crazy. And I want to do that, but I can do it in a way that when I do, it doesn't seem crazy. So if I do that in a couple of months, it's not going to seem crazy because I'll have finished my business class, blah, blah, blah. But there's this desire to escape this now. And that, again, is a movement of the self, because we, as our projections, we're escaping the moment. So when that creative energy comes in, it can escape the moment even better. It can create actions of the person moving through reality in different ways, as opposed to escaping through mental projections, which is what we usually do. We project something mentally and then do little habity things like eat a cookie or something to cope. But with this creative energy, if it's channeled into escape, it will devise a very creative escape plan of going on a trip or just packing up and leaving overnight and wandering down the street naked and all these different things, as challenging the societal structure. But when we challenge it in that way, we get trapped and captured into the mental health system because we've acted out of seemingly normal range of behaviors. So then we're seen as mentally ill. So can we channel the energy into creating our way through this as opposed to escaping it now? Can we create with the now and move out of it that way as opposed to escaping it now. The equivalent would be, say, if when I was diagnosed 6 years ago, I decided, I'm not doing this, I'm not taking my meds, not take the meds, run away, I would just be captured again and medicated even more. But it took me 6 years to create my way out of that. But then I realized I'm still in a prison of sorts, a prison of not having abundance to live the way I want. And I know that's not true. Abundance is not about money. And I have an abundance of energy and creativity, which can easily create money and abundance in other ways and an abundant way of living. So I could try to escape and live abundantly now, or I could create day by day in a logical, rational way to adhere with the structures of others around me so I don't seem crazy, but I'm still creative. So creativity seems crazy, but can that creativity be channeled into something like a business, which people understand, and then utilizing that business to live creatively as opposed to going crazy? Because creative energy will manifest as a seemingly crazy person when we're not able to create our scaffolding as a lifestyle, as a way of living to move out of this. So if we're living in a lifestyle that we're always around other egos that are familiar with us, we're going to be reacting to them because that energy of creativity is more energy than regular ego consciousness has. So we're going to see more moody and more amplified than a regular person who might be just as moody inside, but doesn't necessarily manifest that as action. Because part of creativity is action. Creativity isn't just rearranging images in one's mind. What happens when we do that is we live in patterns and habit. And that's what regular consciousness people are doing. So when we have more creative energy and we're interacting with somebody and we end up reacting, it's going to be more of an action, because creative energy is to fuel action, not imagination, action. So unfortunately, with the way our relationships and our dynamics are set up at present, we're going to be bumping into things in our epigenetic matrix that we will have more powerful actions that seem like personal moods and personal behaviors and acting out of character, because creativity is to create new actions and gestures. But unfortunately, right now, since that energy feels so trapped in the momentum and the structure and the gravity of what is going on now, it just becomes more of what is the problem, which is interacting in these egocentric ways. So I say this today, I might be freaking out tomorrow, but I'm also perhaps going to help somebody get healthy. And considering I might want to help people transform and get healthy, that could be a good thing to do, which is challenging. But is that something I want to do? This could be a good way to find out. Do I actually want to help somebody who may or may not be motivated, says they're motivated, but action is different than words? So yeah, that could be helpful to creating some kind of coaching program. Perhaps I could create the coaching program actually by doing this, helping somebody in the next month. So there are things I can do. There are things I can do within the prison that I'm in, the prison of weather, the prison of this room, the prison of not having financial abundance to take off. But it's not time yet. But that's the thing. This comes into play a lot in map consciousness, is we have a lot of visions and we feel like they have to happen now. We feel like they are happening now. The difference right now is I have something in mind I want to create. I realize it's not happening now, but I kind of want it to be happening faster than it is. So it is, again, a similar movement. And even though I understand it's not being created now, there's this energy that wants it to be created now, which can create this ego anger of it's not being created soon enough. And collectively, when we get really angry as creative people, we're kind of yelling like, why don't you see this? Why aren't you helping us create this? Rah! And then we get medicalized and pathologized and medicated into being okay with the status quo. And I'm not okay with the status quo of my life. I am in ways, for sure. I think part of it is I realize that I can transform really quickly. Even if I was transformed into a 250-pound person numbed out on meds tomorrow, I would realize, I would know for myself that I could change that relatively quickly. Within a few months, I could get back to what I am now. But in saying that, I see that the environment I'm in now is constraining the next possible evolution of being a business person, which would include influencing others to be able to do the same, showing other people they can do the same. So maybe part of it is I feel like I've shown enough to myself. I know, I understand, and I want to pass on that understanding. Yet at the same time, I know I don't quite understand because I'm struggling a bit, and it hasn't been 9 months on only micronutrients, which is my goal to be on. Yet I'm seeing the situation might make it so it's really hard to get to that 9 months. So it's this paradox. It's this paradox of waiting for a certain result and thinking that that is the answer. And I'm not sure if it is for me, but I feel like that will satisfy other people more as well, which I need to take into consideration. It might satisfy me to drop everything and go on a trip tomorrow and see what happens. But without the business structure, it likely will be seen as craziness. So yeah, it's challenging to walk this out and be further ahead in the creativity of my brain than what's manifested in my life. And that can produce this discordance that increases the gravity on myself and then slows me down, which is slowing down the projection of the creativity, which is way further ahead. So I see that it's also part of the slowing down of the brain mechanism and getting back in contact with egocentric ways of functioning, which is part of daily life because that's the structure. But how can one operate creatively in daily life? I'm wondering, can I create this health that I know I can create for myself in a couple months? And I have it right now, mainly. I might try things like the ketogenic diet, but can I help somebody else? And I want to help other people like me, but can I help somebody that is in my vicinity right now? Do I want to do that? It's partly not knowing if the other person wants to really transform, because it is a commitment of sorts. So yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just talking to myself and trying not to collapse too much back into egocentricity, though I likely don't have any control over that, but I can witness it and make meaning out of it. And I do think that I need to continue to make meaning. I haven't really been doing that. I've been talking in ways that reaffirm the self a bit. And I don't know. I really don't know. I'm going to keep talking my way through this part. And it might get boring and repetitive like the whole other part. And that's the thing, that we can speak a million words into the future, but we are here right now. So speaking so much about creativity in the future, it creates something that pulls us towards that, but at the same time it can create this "it's not happening fast enough" thing. I don't even know what that means. Sometimes I don't have that sensation at all, but I think it's being trapped in a room as the days are getting colder and darker, and seeing it's going to be tough to get through this winter, and hopefully this is the last winter I have to get through. And the last couple days when I felt very condensed and collapsed, what brings me out of it quickly is realizing that I have to create my way out. I have to create my way out. That's the only way. I have to create a business. That's the only way to have abundance. Besides winning the lottery, and nothing else is going to create that. So keeping that in mind and heart, and hopefully my body doesn't freak out too much in the process. And I'm going to make a smoothie, and yeah, I think I've created a lot in mind, and I change every day what I might want to do, but I'm going to focus a bit more on writing, because I can write. I don't have to be outside freezing cold talking to myself or something. And creating a healthy body, mini trampoline, exercise a little bit, just a little bit of everything, nothing to overemphasize. So not even creativity. Can that energy be transmuted into being present? This is going to be too long, so I'll shut up now.